channel, Alyssa here. Today I'm going to be talking about some ways to use your bullet journal to track your health. When I was thinking of what kinds of spreads to design here, I thought about different facets of health and ways that we measure health. So the spreads that I'm talking about today are going to cover nutrition, exercise, health symptoms like headaches or stomach problems, things like that, and then also relaxation or focus. Here are the pens I'm going to be using mostly for today. I've got my Fudenosuke, my mild liners, and then I've got a Pitt Artist pen. I'll probably use different sizes of the black Pitt Artist pens. And so now let's get started. This first spread is going to be for tracking nutrition. So here on the left side, I'm going to have a log for all the calories, macros, things that I typically use to track nutrition. And then on the right side here, I'm going to have little notes about what I actually ate, just to keep track of the meals I'm having. The beautiful thing about all of the spreads I'm going to show you today is that they're highly customizable. Here I'm doing a 4-week spread, and each week is vertical, so we have Monday at the top and then down to Sunday at the bottom. Or you can start yours on Sunday if you prefer that, or even if you like to start your weeks on Wednesday. Anything that you want can be put into these spreads. That's why bullet journaling is so great, is because everything that you do is how you like it and customized for you. For the right hand side, I went with your basic top to bottom month list. This is just to get the most space for what I have. So this gives us the most room for each row. I split this up into breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can just start writing things down along the line without any divisions if you want, or you can lay out your meals entirely differently. It's entirely up to you. Now to finish things up here, I'm just going to add some labels for my columns and a little bit of decoration. Here is an optional element. I wanted to add a little key. In each of these boxes, I'm going to have calories, protein, fat, and carbs. And then I'm going to color code if I've gone over or if I was too low on a particular macro. Now the spread is all set up. This is what I would start with at the beginning of a month or of 4 weeks like I have here. And now I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of fill in some of these squares with different ways to kind of denote your different things you're tracking here. If you'd like to, you can set this up to match a month instead of 4 weeks. And there is space on the right there, you can see, for a 5th column. So you can number these if you're doing it days of a month rather than a number of weeks. And then typically I would just, eat what I eat, and then I would go into here and write down little notes about what it was that I ate. And you'll see you can make it as specific as you like. On the top I just have 2 eggs, cereal, and then the next one I actually have like 1 cup of rice, half a cup of chicken. A cup of chicken isn't really a great measurement, but you know what I mean. And then in the little squares, I'm going to put down the total calories for the day, total protein, total fat, total carbs. And then I'm showing you different ways right now of how to mark if you were over, under, or just right on each of your macros. So this spread is really for someone who's tracking their food pretty specifically. Like, this isn't just, if you just want to know what you ate, you can just have the right side, and then the macro calendar you can just leave out. But I tend to be very granular in how I track my food, so this spread is something that would work for me really well. So there is the first spread complete. It's a nutrition log for tracking calories, macros, and the foods that you ate throughout either 4 weeks, a month, or you could even set this up for a week. The next two spreads are very closely related. They're meant to track triggers, symptoms, health problems, whatever you want to call them. I'm probably just going to call it the trigger tracker. And my example I'm going to be using is for tracking what contributes to headaches, because the headaches are a thing that I get very often. So what we have here is 5 columns. The ones on the left, so not the rightmost column, are a little narrower because they're going to be the potential triggers that I'm tracking. And this is another vertical monthly layout. You can adjust this however you like. You can track weeks at a time if you prefer to have more space to write. I generally like to set up a whole month at a time, just so every week I'm not doing like 5 spreads every single week. I spend enough time setting up my weekly, daily spreads that I just don't need to add on to that workload. And also, if I just do this once a month, it gives me a chance to really decorate and maybe make a pretty watercolor background, make it look really nice. Now, the idea behind this spread is that each of these smaller columns is something that you think might be causing a problem for you. I wrote down caffeine, sugar, stress, and sleep. Each of these things could conceivably be causing headaches. And I wanted to show a lot of different ways for filling in these columns, just to show you that you're not locked into just boring little bits of text. You can do all kinds of things. I drew little coffee cups as an example in the caffeine section, and then if text does work better for you, you can just write in text. Everything is flexible, everything can be customized. And as an example here, I'm just filling this in. This is not real data. Don't think I've unlocked the secrets to what causes headaches. And I'm just trying out different ways to mark down things in these columns. As an example, in the sleep column, I've used the section as a bar graph and just filled it up for how many hours. I've written down the number of hours. And then also, quality of sleep is another thing that you can potentially track. And I've marked that down here with good, okay, bad, very bad, and then color-coded each of these things. And the same thing with the actual symptom, you can track that however you need to. And now we're moving on to the second half of this spread. You can use either of these spreads separately. They don't need to be together. They're not really connected in any way. But on the second spread, we're going to be viewing the same information, but it's going to be laid out visually in a chart or a plot. Each of these 4 sections corresponds to one of the triggers that I identified on the left. So one of them will be for caffeine, one for sugar, one for sleep, one for stress. And then in each section, we're going to have a little scale for measuring that section. And then along the bottom, we have a scale for measuring the severity of the symptom. You can set this up however you like, but it doesn't need to be some kind of scale because otherwise we won't be able to really see the value of this plot. If there's only either yes or no, it's going to be pretty boring. And so filling this in, every day you put a dot and you measure along the x-axis how severe your symptoms were or weren't, and then vertically in each section you track that trigger. So this top one is cups of caffeine, so up at the top is more cups, down below is fewer cups. And then one way I like to track days that were exactly the same is just to make the dot bigger, so just to draw another ring around it. Another way to track multiple days is just cluster the dots like I did in the second plot. Really, you can do anything you want. In one example, I wrote in the number of the day for each dot if you want to track which day your headaches were really bad. You can also use little symbols like I did here for these little X's. So this is just showing a few different ways to actually fill in this plot. So there's these two spreads. Like I said, you can use them separately or you can use them together like this. It really just depends on what you like to see and what information is valuable to you. The next spread I'm going to be doing here can be used to track pretty much anything. In this example, I'm using it to track minutes I spent exercising and then also calories burned by that exercise. Actually, when I initially wrote this up, you'll see the numbers are really high. It was meant to be calories eaten that day, but I realized later that calories burned by the exercise fit a lot better in this joint graph, just as a metric. Once you decide what you want to track, decide what kind of number scale is going to be most valuable for that particular thing. So here I just did minutes of exercise in increments of 5, and then calories in increments of 300. And then each day you just fill in the number for each side of the graph. If you only want one graph, you can just use one side of this. You can also set these up so they start in the middle and they move outwards if you like the look of that a little better. And then I'm just shading these in just for visuals. And the thing that I really wanted to add to this basic line chart is little icons. So here for the exercise, you can put what kind of exercise you did in the form of a cute little icon. This is another spread that is pretty much anything you make it. The next spread is also going to be focused on exercise. This one is going to be a little bit more basic just because the types of information that it tracks are kind of harder to quantify, so there's not numbers really for these kinds of things. The inspiration for this spread came from a friend. I asked her what kind of health things she wanted to track, and she said she wanted to track her mobility. So things like mobility, like range of motion and flexibility, there's not a number. It's not like, oh yes, I stretched 15 inches today. There's no way to quantify like how flexible you're feeling on a particular day, which is why I included a very significant notes section for each of these blocks here. My idea for this spread was that each section would track one workout, which is why the left side I put the date, and then in the middle you track how much or how long you did that workout for, and then on the right you put how you felt, whether it was easy or hard, if you feel like you're improving, things that you can't put a number on. And as I was looking at this, I realized that there's another way to really easily use these little blocks, and that is if you're doing more standalone workouts, like if you're going for a run, if you're doing some like high intensity interval training, things where you don't have smaller workouts within it, you can use one of these blocks to track an entire week and then just put your different workouts on each line. So here I put down running 5 miles and then the time. I just made up that time. I have no idea how long it takes people to run 5 miles. And then on the right side I just used like a color bar of the mile liners to mark the intensity or how good I felt during that workout, whatever it means to you. So this is another spread where it can mean whatever you need it to mean, and the layout is just there to give you some place to start. Now this final spread is the last facet of health that I mentioned, which is relaxation, stress management, focus, whatever you want to track in this spread, and I'll talk to you about how I would use it to track relaxation. Now, I recently read a book about anxiety. It was almost like a textbook. It was very dense. And in that book, they recommended relaxing for 1 hour a day and for 1 day a week. So 1 hour of every day is just to be. You don't have to do anything. It's just your relaxation time. And the same thing is for 1 day of the week. So maybe for me, it's usually Sundays. And then at the bottom of this spread, I just wanted to write down ideas of things I could do to relax. I intentionally made this spread less busy than the other spreads. I just wanted it as a way to track what I'm doing for myself and how it's affecting my stress levels, anxiety levels. So, what I would do is I would go through and I would put maybe the minutes I spent on relaxing tasks, and then I would mark in some way how anxious I felt that day. I do have an anxiety disorder, so that's something that I like to see. I like to see if the time I take for myself is helping, and spoiler alert, it does. That's why, professionals recommend taking this time just to relax. And like with the other spreads, there are many ways that you can fill in this spread. Now I'm just gonna flip back through all the spreads that I went over today. And you don't have to use all of these to be like good at tracking your health. That's not how it works. Just pick whichever spreads are useful to you, which track things that you're interested in, and use them however fits in your planning schedule. I will probably incorporate a couple of these into my 2018 setup, almost certainly not all of them. I do use other things like other apps to track my macros and stuff, so it might be nice to jot those down in a notebook like this, but I don't necessarily need it in order to get that information that I'm looking for. So that wraps up this video. If you think I missed anything, please leave a comment below and maybe I can address it in a future video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and maybe just leave a comment saying what you liked. I hope to see you again and I hope you all have a lovely day. Thank you for watching.